You are listening to Science Coast with Mallory Havens and
Chris White.
And
Toni Fitzpatrick.
Welcome back.
Today we're going to continue the conversation about student success. And in the previous podcast, we were talking about first-gen students. And when the first-gen student shows up at Lewis University, we have a broad array of support structures, and many of them are within Toni's office. So, Toni, maybe you could share with us the various things that your office does to help students be successful.
Sure, yeah. So our office is academic services, and we have a whole bunch of things that we do to support students. So there's kind of different buckets in our office. So we have first year experience, which includes our orientation program, Cornerstone Seminar, Welcome Week, to kind of help students get transition from high school to college or from their previous college to Lewis. We have all sorts of academic support programming. So we have tutoring, Blackboard support, peer mentoring that happens from our office. And then we also have disability support services for students who might have had like a 504 or an IEP in high school. And then probably one of the most significant and new things that we have in our office is the Flyer Success Network. So that is a crew of amazing success coaches.
What do success coaches do?
Officially what they do is empower students on their path to graduation. But what that looks like every day, like on the day-to-day, is they're meeting with students constantly, talking to them about how they're doing, what their goals are, talking through challenges as students aren't meeting their goals. They're advising students. They're getting students connected to resources. So if a student's going through some challenges, they might connect them to the wellness center, or if a student's not feeling connected, they might get them connected to a club or a student activity or something like that. So they're kind of supporting students all around.
Are they faculty members?
No, they are staff members, and they're new. So they all started last July. This is their first academic year with us, and they're amazing. They're a wonderful crew. Each of them have their own kind of unique story and path, and so they're driven by their experience to help students graduate from college.
Okay, one final thing. If I were an incoming student, how would I get connected with the success coaches?
You'll hear from your success coach.
So they're going to reach out to me?
Yeah, once you're a registered student at Lewis, you will hear from your success coach.
Yeah, it's a good opportunity, especially faculty don't know everything.
Wait,
what?
I know this might be a shock.
Sorry, Mallory.
But it really helps to have someone that the students can go to that know the ins and outs of all the different support structures or ways that you could get connected. I can tell students there are clubs, and I know some of them, but I certainly don't know all of them. And believe it or not, people have diverse interests.
I think the other part about it is the success coaches, that's their full-time job.
Right.
They don't have anything else to do at Lewis University except engage with the students to help them be successful. That's why they are here. How many do we have?
A total of 12. So we have 11 general success coaches and one success coach for the student athletes.
And so 1 year in now, how's it going?
It's great. The students are giving us really good feedback about their success coaches. So we have a survey that students fill out after appointments. We're seeing all sorts of good stuff from the students talking about how much the success coaches have helped, how much they care, how fun they are, stuff like that. And then, just in terms of like registration numbers and retention and stuff, we're seeing positive things there. So far, so good.
Just sounds like another layer of support. In addition, so the faculty mentors are around, the faculty that the students are taking classes from, if they're an athlete, then they're coaches. And then you also have the student success. And then if you're in the dorms, you've got your residence advisors. And the whole idea is to create a very, overlapping network of people to help form a community in which you can engage.
Yeah.
Is that the basic idea?
Yeah. I mean, it's exactly what you said. It's a network. So it's like and the student being important part of that. And the whole thing, I think that's important to say, that I'd like to say, is college is hard. No matter what your high school experience was like, or if you're a transfer student, it's going to be hard. There's going to be some challenges along the way. They're different for each student, right? Like an A student might be really bent out of shape if they get a C on something, and that might be a challenge. Whereas a student who's
I've met that student.
right? So it's going to be hard in one way or another for all the students. So the success coach is just there to be there and to kind of walk alongside and provide support and give them, continued confidence and motivation to get to graduation.
And even if it isn't an academic challenge, there can be social emotional challenges that happen in college.
Totally.
Maybe first time you're living, away from home on campus. Maybe the first time you're living in a new state.
Yes.
Just working out those interpersonal adult relationships where no one's giving you a curfew. And
Yes.
all of it can definitely have an impact.
Yeah. I always talk to students about the visual of like high school's like a building, right? It's like, imagine you're in a room with 4 walls and you come to college and those walls just all fall down. And it's like you now build your structure for what this is going to look like. What are your guardrails? How do you manage time? What choices do you make? How do you experience those consequences? It's a whole different experience being in college.
So I think in the past, people focused on the academics, and what you're saying is it's much more of a holistic life experience. But if a student were having some academic challenges, say with their calculus class, the success coach might not be the best person for them to go to talk about, how to integrate
Integrations.
Trig functions and stuff like that. So if a student is having difficulty with, for example, one of their courses, and they just for whatever reason aren't necessarily connecting with their faculty member, what other support structures exist to help them?
Yeah, so the success coach would definitely help the student in finding ways to work with the professor. Like, okay, so, tell me about the ways you've talked to your professor. Have you stopped in office hours? Have you emailed? Like, what are the attempts you've made to kind of, because the most important person in that situation is the student and the professor directly talking about what's going on. So there's always the success coaches encouraging and helping the students figure out that. And that's part of what's hard in college, right, is like you have to talk to your professor and kind of have that open conversation. But also, if there's tutoring, math study tables, connecting the students to all of those resources as well.
I tell the students all the time, the tutors are free. Go use them.
Right.
You don't have to pay.
Right.
And many of them are peers. They're
Yes.
students who are maybe juniors, seniors, who have taken the classes in the past and have mastered the material already and are there to help the next set of students.
Yeah.
But so it's interesting because this notion of engaging with a faculty member, and I have college age kids, and it's like, go talk to the faculty. I don't want to talk to them.
Mm-hmm.
And have you seen, Toni, in your time as here at Lewis University, students who, I don't know if it's because of cell phones, but have a difficult time engaging face to face with other human beings? And what do you think we should do about that?
Yes. And I have a 14-year-old. I see it with him. So he's a freshman in high school, and I'm like, you have to go talk to your teacher, and yeah, it is. It's a challenge for them to do it and to have the confidence to do it and to know what to say even, like what do I ask them? Like, I got a bad grade, so what do I say?
Yeah, I think that can be really hard, and just also some people just have expectations of themselves, and when they haven't met their own expectation, they beat themselves up over it and don't know how to rise to it, like shut down rather than be like, okay, this is an opportunity.
Yes.
Maybe I didn't get it for the first time around,
Yes.
but I can do that. I see that in my 5-year-old.
Yes.
I can just see it wash over his face when he doesn't have the answer right away and another little kid does. And I'm just like, no, that's why failure helps us learn.
Growth, back to growth mindset,
Yeah.
right? Like, it
Yeah.
really goes back to that. Yeah.
I think it's hard for all stages to sometimes do that, but as a professor, I can tell you I don't bite. I'm not here to be mean. I'm not going to punish you. I'm not mad at you. Like, I want to help you and support you. That's why I'm here.
I think that's been my experience as well. A vast majority of faculty members want the students to come and engage with them. They want to know you. They want to help you. They want to be a guide to help you learn the material and be successful. They sincerely do. And
we say that to students all the time, and it's just trying to get them over that hump of like, they do like talk to them. They would like to know a little bit about this situation that's going on with you that's making things difficult for you in class, like really pushing them to like take a little bit of a risk, because to the student it's a little bit risky. Like, okay, like I'm going to maybe be a little vulnerable in a moment when I feel like I'm not meeting my own expectations.
I know my wife is a collegiate instructor, and she's been focusing the past 5 years at the very beginning of every semester on finding ways to help break down the barrier. And at one point, she's even been assigning points to the students, saying, in the first 2 weeks of class, you will get this many points if you come to my office and talk to me for 5 minutes.
Yeah, just to force it.
No, seriously.
Yeah.
So she's gotten to the point where she basically has told them, I will give you points for simply coming to my office and staying for 5 minutes and talking to me about whatever you want to talk about. It doesn't have to be about the class. And what she says is that when students do this, they are much more willing to engage with her in the classroom. And so in the laboratory environment, so when she teaches both the lecture and the lab portion of the courses. In the labs, the students are much more talkative after they've spent that 5 minutes in her office just shooting the breeze. And it's all of a sudden you break this barrier, and it's like, oh, okay, I can talk to you because like you're like a human being.
Right. Yeah, it's so important.
I start every new class every semester, with an icebreaker, and I always do something where I either tell them my most gruesome injury or something embarrassing.
How many have you had, by the way?
So many. I'm walking around with a broken foot right now. But I always try to humanize myself initially, and I'm not afraid to embarrass myself. So I tell them ridiculous stories about me, or I'm always like, what'd you guys do this weekend? This weekend and say something just so they can. Today I told them a story about this rickety car. We were talking about how enzymes can denature. And I was explaining if you drive a really crappy car on a rumble strip, it might kind of denature or fall apart. And I was describing my high school car to them, and they were all looking really horrified. And I was like, what? I had to tie on my seatbelt.
I mean, it's so silly, right? But it's just be human. Just be just connect. That's how we connect.
We're not a sage on the stage. We're just another person who knows a little bit more information about a subject, but we're trying to share that with you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So another area of your offices deals with documented disabilities.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk about that a little bit?
Sure. Yeah. So, a whole area of our office focuses on supporting students who have kind of different needs. So, a lot of times in high school, students might have extended time on exams, or they might be supplied with lecture notes or PowerPoints from lecture, things like that. So, in college, it's slightly different. It's a little bit different in terms of the student has to initiate the process with us by sharing some documentation with us and going through a meeting with our learning access coordinator, and then it's collaborative to figure out, okay, you have this documentation. Tell me about what has your K through 12 experience been like? How do you, learn best in the classroom? And then together, the learning access coordinator and the student develop what accommodations will support the student in being successful. And then the student has those accommodations in place during their time at Lewis, but they have to kind of initiate the use of them with their professors. So that's an important step for students in colleges. They have to kind of initiate that support.
So when they initiate, do they initiate with the professor, or do they initiate with your office?
First with our office, then once the accommodations are in place, then with their professor.
And so hopefully if they go to the professor will direct them to you.
Well, usually what happens is we as professors get the accommodation letters, and I tell the students, if you have accommodations and you want to use them, you have to tell me, because I'm not going to assume you're going to the testing center. And the testing center will email me when you make an appointment, but you just tell me what you need me to do, because if you don't, just because you have them doesn't mean you want to use them, but
Exactly.
You're absolutely free to use them. I went to college with a girl who found out her junior year that her parents never told her, but she had a documented a type of dyslexia, and her parents had intentionally not told her to try to make her achieve, and she had spent so much time struggling and not understanding why things were harder for her. When they finally told her, she broke down crying and said, had you told me this, I could have used resources and gotten help along the way instead of struggling.
Wow.
And so she finally got accommodations junior year, and it made all the difference.
Wow.
I think, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say that brings up something, which is a lot of times students, when they come to college, they're like, I want to try this without any type of accommodations. I had the accommodations in high school, and I'm going to come to college and just give it a go. And so we always say, and I'm glad you said this, Mallory, is that getting the accommodations in place is just, it's a safety net that's there. You don't have to use them. But at least if something happens, you're, halfway into the semester and you feel like, I do need this support, you can talk to your professors and leverage those accommodations.
I think there's also a stigma associated with certain types of disabilities that still exist in our society, and people want to suppress it. So when I hear about this, I'm sure the parents didn't want to openly admit that their child had dyslexia.
Right.
And because there's always been stigma associated with the other. But I know that here at Lewis University, we want students to self-identify and come to, for example, Toni's office and say, hey, I have, potentially even mental illness. We want to be here. We want to help you. We don't want to suppress it. I think there's so much harm that's been done over the history of human civilization by suppressing these issues as opposed to confronting them face on and saying, we understand. We're here. We want to help you.
I actually had a student I referred to counseling services once because he just seemed to be really struggling. And the next year I talked to him, helped him call over, was like, go ahead, go. Next year he came up to me and thanked me and said that was the catalyst for him getting diagnosed and medicated for something, and that he was doing much better after that. And I was like, well, good. I'm glad.
Wow.
Wow. Yeah, there are plenty of resources, and it's just, if we are just kind to each other and point each other in the right direction, it can help.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah, you taking that time to do that with him and noticing is huge. Yeah. It's huge.
Are there any other areas of your office that you would like to share with the listeners that we haven't talked about yet?
So our office, we do some, we have our First Gen Flyers program, which is a wonderful program for First Gen students to get hooked up with a peer mentor. So somebody that's a year or two older than them that's also First Gen, which is a wonderful program and support. And then, we have other programming in our office at different points of the year, which is really just about building community, getting students connected, and just our office is we're a fun group. So everything that we do, we try to have fun, and we always try to make sure that the students, it's not just for the students, but the students have some type of role in kind of figuring out what the different things are. So Stephanie Renovato, Melissa Eichelberger in our office are kind of our programming folks, and they do a really wonderful job with First Gen Flyers, Success Scholars programming. They have study tables. They have study tables this week, actually, where the students all come together and just study together and have snacks and listen to music. And so there's all sorts of good stuff. And I think more than anything, we hope that students know they can always come to our office. We care so much about the students. So whatever's going on, we see ourselves as the office where if you come to our office, you're not going to leave without the help you need. We're not going to send you off anywhere else. So it's kind of like the last place you'll stop, and we'll get you connected and make sure you have what you need and you feel like there's people here that care about you.
That's awesome, because we do care about you. And with that, the views, thoughts, and opinions expressed are the speaker's own and do not represent the views, thoughts, and opinions of Lewis University, though I feel like Lewis would agree with this. The material and information presented here is for general information purposes only. The Lewis University name and all forms and abbreviations are the property of its owner, and its use does not imply endorsement of or opposition to any specific organization, product, or service. This podcast was produced in the WLRA podcast studios at Lewis University. Visit lewisu.edu for more information about Lewis University. This has been Science Coast with Mallory Havens and
Chris White
and
Toni Fitzpatrick.
Thanks. Bye.